Hi, viewers, and hello, dear people who are here live. Welcome back to Consent Dojo. And I'm Midori, and I am essentially the proxy of you. And I have a fantastic guest today. Brian's going to be here, but I'll talk more about Brian in a moment. Little bit about Consent Dojo. First, I want to thank all my subscribers and members over at Patreon because you all make this possible to do this for free and make it available to the public. I think we are on episode 42, 44, 44, I think, 44. 44 episodes, and this started sometime in the early pandemic. There was an organization that wanted me to teach consent, and I think the organization wanted me to give like a step one, step two, this is how you do it. And my response was, I can't do that. And the tech bro that was running the company was like, well, why not? Oh dear. And so instead of teaching, because I only feel qualified to teach this much about consent, and I know I don't know a lot, but you know what I do know? I know I have amazing friends with specialization and interests around consent, agreement making, boundaries, and limits in all facets of life. And consent is a muscle. So we work it out daily in little ways and big ways, not just in the bedroom, not just in the playroom, but we are social creatures. And speaking of social creatures, meet Brian. And how, pronouns, please, and the pronunciation of your last name.
He, him, and Gibney.
Okay. So I laid eyes on Brian over at the ASEC conference this year, and we had a little online connection. And hey, see you at ASEC. By the way, the conference is fantastic. So many different kinds of talents, and certainly therapists and counselors, but also other related industry around sex education and therapy and helping people, helping professionals. And I discovered that Brian is very involved in work that I don't know much about. And I'd heard the names, Surrogate Partner Therapy, and even as I was asking him, I'm stumbling through it, and I thought, oh, if I don't know what this is, I would love to pick your brain and share it with the world. And this is going to be really interesting. So, we're going to spend our time talking about this. And at the end, as usual, there will be a homework, a fun homework that Brian will be sharing with us. And I'd like to read about Brian here. And so, Brian has worn many hats. Yes, I'm reading the bio, okay? Yeah. Brian's worn many hats in his life: scientific researcher, educator, professional artist, and circus performer. You know that's gonna get people asking, right? As a surrogate partner and intimacy coach, Brian seeks to use his knowledge to help people overcome obstacles to physical and emotional intimacy. Brian received his BA in molecular biology from Kenyon College in 99 and master's in microbiology from University of Massachusetts. After receiving his training in surrogate partner therapy in 2016, Brian helped found the Surrogate Partner Collective Embrace research group, the intimacy professionals peer support group, and is currently serving as co-chair of ASEX Somatic Sexuality Professionals Special Interest Group. And boy, I have special interest. And I am bummed that I missed the special interest group meeting. Next time, damn it. So let's start with, okay, so circus, research, molecular biology,
It's
and
been a ride, yeah.
left turn at Albuquerque.
Yeah.
So h- how'd you get into this?
I, on paper, it seems really random, but there have been threads that kind of have wandered through all of those things. I was super nerdy and geeky when I was younger. Also, like
Wait, wait,
this is
wait.
where my
When you
like
were
prof
younger, does
oh
that mean you're not now?
I'm still nerdy and geeky, right?
Great.
Always, always. Um, so I was super nerdy and geeky and also very antisocial, right? I had a very, very hard time socializing, which we can get into later. But loved biology, loved science, loved the natural world. Thought the way that I was going to make my mark on the world and help people was through my intellect. Um, really loved molecular biology, really loved microbiology, um, because I like systems. I
Hmm.
like asking questions and getting answers that are not quite what I expected and then having to pivot, right? That's very fun for me. Hated the culture of research science. It was not a good fit for me at all. Um, and when I was deciding not to continue with my PhD, a dear friend of mine sat me down and said, "Hey, just so you know, you're a sacred whore." And that blew my poor sciencey brain. Like I had no idea where to put that, right? Um, but she explained a little bit that like she was a very like woo kind of person. She's like, you have the aura about you of someone who heals with your sexuality, that you're a healer and that you were put here to help other people. More than anything, that freaked me out. I had no idea what to do with that. But she left me with a message of um, this is integral to who you are and how you walk around. And people are going to sense that whether you do anything with it or not. So just know that people might be approaching you seeking healing, seeking guidance. Um, and for quite some time, I was like, yeah, what? Sure, whatever. And also, friends, partners, acquaintances kept on coming up asking for advice, asking for help overcoming trauma, things like that. But back to the career side, after my PhD, I needed to do something very different. I needed to kind of feed the creative part of myself. Um, so I was a jeweler for about 10 years. And then yeah, well, yes and no, right? Like I had been making jewelry since I was a teenager.
Oh, okay.
I was obsessed with fire. I bought a blowtorch when I was like 14 years old. My parents were like, you need to learn how to do this safely. But that was my creative outlet when I was a very, very unhappy person.
Mhm.
Um, Turned that into a 10-year career. Um, and then just by the strangest serendipity of events, literally fell into the circus. Um, So I started a circus here in Charlottesville. We didn't do any large national touring, but we did a lot of regional gigs. We worked at Capitol Pride for 2 years in a row, which was a trip. It was amazing. Um, but in the circus, not only did I do the managerial stuff, but I was also a performer working primarily in partner balance, acrobatic balance. So I worked with a partner and we would do weight sharing and I would lift her over my head and we would, make all these fun, funky shapes, which absolutely informed how I think about consent, right? Because little sidetrack, there's the behind the scenes stuff that you never see when you see a circus performer perform, like which is like the practice, the hours and the hours and the hours, and the discussions that we had to have about, do I feel safe doing this skill? How do we titrate? How do we build up to it? Getting to the point also where our bodies were starting to communicate nonverbally, where if um, she was having an off day, a low energy day, I could feel that with my body, right? And we could calibrate midstream. So that like so we have the sciencey brain, which definitely informs how I think of things clinically in the work,
Mhm.
right? The going between the macro small things to the or to the micro small things to the macro. How do the systems work? What influences the systems? Um, to the creative part of me, to the circusy part of me, where we build up exercises and routines from small bits. And then a therapist friend of mine who I've known for years now found out about surrogate partner therapy, and she was like, you should do this. And it freaked me out, right? Like I, I, this was so different from anything I had planned in my life, even after doing the science, the jewelry, the circus performing, that I was like, do people really do this? Can I really do this? And I just decided to take the plunge and I took a training and it kind of felt like coming home. It kind of felt like being able to use all the different parts of myself all at once. And it was really beautiful. And I have been working with clients, I have been advocating, I've been teaching ever since.
Okay. And my I have a movie playing in my head that of your course of life, and it's so fascinating. But now I'm going to get to the question that I'm sure you get asked. What is surrogate partner therapy? And I'm going to have and probably the viewers too have lots of images of possibilities. So
Sure.
tell me what it is, and then I'm going to ask you about what people think it is.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to put on my like teacher hat, like this like lecture hat for just a little bit. Um, so surrogate partner therapy was created by Masters and Johnson back in the late 60s, and they published about it in their really impactful book, Human Sexual Inadequacies, right? Which was really one of the foundations of sex therapy as we know it. In the most basic terms, what surrogate partner therapy does is it helps people overcome obstacles to physical and emotional intimacy. Now, back when Masters and Johnson did it, it really was um, guys having sex and relationship issues because they couldn't get hard,
Mm-hmm.
right? And what they found was that if they simultaneously did therapy with these folks that were experiencing erectile issues, and they had either a partner, or if they didn't have a partner, a surrogate partner,
Mm-hmm.
do complementary physical exercises with them, that the therapy really started to stick, right? They were able to make these um, big changes in how they viewed sex, how they viewed themselves, in their overall satisfaction in relationship and sexuality with their partners. Um, and surrogate partner therapy has changed a lot since the 70s. It's always been there, but we're a really small group of people. Some of the nuts and bolts about it. We always work together with a therapist. We call it the therapeutic triad. Um, and it's an active communication between all the different parties. So my client would be in therapy with a therapist, they would be in sessions with me, and often these sessions occur over the course of a year or more, right? So this is a pretty long-term therapeutic relationship. And I am doing things in session that are complementary to their talk therapy. And the talk therapy is helping them process what is going on in the room with me. So they come back and we kind of leapfrog our way towards the client's goals.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what I do is I work a lot in embodiment. So knowing how we feel, what we feel, teaching folks how to communicate that with each other, teaching healthy relationship dynamics and consent. So that brings us here, but also teaching how that physically plays out in relationships, right? Once we've figured out how do we know what we want, how do we ask for what we want, and then what do we do about it? So some of my work is relationship dynamics communication, like more heady stuff, even though it's informed by body feelings. A lot of our work is okay, I feel like I want to hold your hands. How do we do that? And negotiating the physical aspect of it, all the way from kind of nurturing platonic touch, but also having erotic potential.
Mm-hmm.
So if a client comes to me and says, I have a history of childhood sexual assault, I couldn't even imagine having consensual sex with someone, but I really, really want to. I want to be able to experience that in my life. How do I get from where I am to being able to have healthy intimacy with a partner.
Mm-hmm.
We go through step by step and have kind of parallel paths, the self-awareness and the relationship communication from that self-awareness, but also the titrated, the little steps of physical contact leading up to that. As we are going through these titrations, these steps, um, we're making sure that we're clear about who is this touch for, right? This is like classic wheel of consent style, right?
Oh, and for those who
Um,
don't know, Wheel of Consent is Betty Martin's brilliant teaching tool. So
so good, so good.
you'll find the link in the places where links are.
Hmm. So we're asking, who is this for?
Mhm.
We're asking, um, what is the ambivalence in this, right? And this is something I love talking about as far as consent is concerned, because if we think consent is just, I always have to be a hell yes to something or else I'm not going to do it, we're missing a big chunk of what it is to be human, right? Um, I often say to clients, if you ask me, will you hug me? There are a million and two things that are going on in my brain when I'm considering that. Right?
Mhm.
Where are we in the work? Do I think it's appropriate? Do I actually want to hug you? I'm a touchy person, right? Sometimes I'm a yes to like touching everybody, not always. Um, what do I think that what is behind that ask? Is it like when I'm picturing the hug, is it like a quick bro hug and a pat and we're done, or is it like a hug, right? There's so much nuance that's packed into that question, and I don't have enough information to fully answer that. So part of what we do is we have conversations of, when you ask a question, what do you really mean? What are you picturing? What are you envisioning? How do you how do you want to feel when this is happening? And this is something, Midori, you and I have talked about as far as kink, for example. Um, so we do that. And as we are exploring these physical intimacy titrations, we're also asking the question, what does done feel like? Right? Does do I know I'm done when I feel sated, when I feel fed, when I've gotten everything that I wanted or enough of what I wanted?
Mhm.
Does done feel like, oh, whatever is happening in the room is great, but there's something else coming up from past history that
Mhm.
is really influencing how I'm feeling, and I can't be present in the room and I'm freaking out. Does done feel like there are other considerations? Does done feel like session is done and we have to be done? There are external forces that are telling us when done is.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And what do all those different flavors of done feel like? So we can start to get more articulate about what those feel like. So when they leave work with me, they can go out into the wild and say, hey, I think I'm done with this date because XYZ.
Mhm.
Or I think we have to be done with this date, but I wish we didn't have to be done with this date because I really don't want to be. As we're exploring done, we're also exploring these kind of chapters of the work. What does it feel like to transition from a really comfortable, friendly conversation about consent, about relationship dynamics, about being embodied and how our body can inform our wants and our boundaries, but then have the possibility of snuggles, right? That can be a big step. Do we even want to go into that step? What does it feel like to transition from snuggles to maybe starting to take clothes off, but not having erotic energy in the room? What does it feel like to start bringing erotic energy in the room? Asking ourselves the question, like, does the work need this? Do my goals need this? And do I want to do this? Which are two totally different questions.
Mhm.
So as we're going through these steps, they get to have these conversations with a therapist of, um, hey, I met Brian for the first time. I was really anxious and really nervous. And by the end of it, I felt like I could kind of like drop into my body and settle down. But I don't see how we're going to get from here to sex. And a therapist will often say, you don't have to, right? You might have this abstract idea in your head of the goals of what you think you need to be healed. But like, let's just take it day by day, see how it feels. Clients get to process with therapists how their relationship with me is changing,
Mhm.
how that's changing their relationship to their history. And they get to say, how is this different from what I've experienced in the past? And how can I bring what's happening here in the room into relationships in the future?
That was really comprehensive. Um, I'm going to go back to something you mentioned earlier that I know several people that have stumbled over the concept.
A lot of people do.
Embodied.
Yeah.
Can you talk about embodied?
Yeah. I think it's one of those words that gets thrown around in like social media, Instagram culture a lot, a lot, a lot.
Uh-huh.
Like let's just let's de-wooify it a little bit. Um, as much as I have lovely woo people in my life, like let's call it like embodiment, trusting your gut. Right? We all have um, these senses in our bodies that inform us about how we feel about a situation, right? Sometimes we meet someone and the hair on the back of our neck stands up and we're like, ooh, what's that? And sometimes we meet someone and it's just like, wow, I feel drawn to this person. My body wants to lean in. Right? And body just means using the senses that we have at our disposal, all of our body, not just our brains, um, to inform our decisions, to have conversations with ourselves about. Um, and sometimes embodiment means we have mixed signals, right? What is happening in my body is happening differently than what's happening in our brain. Great. Humans are complicated. We're messy. Let's have that conversation. Um, but let's not um, let's not ignore this part of ourselves um, as we stumble into what we think we should be doing.
Yeah, the should.
Oh
Yes.
my, should comes up
Yeah.
so much.
Yep. In my women's intensive Forte Femme, should, I should look like, I should sound like, and all the messages that people have internalized. And the question you asked about what would please me now, it's one of the core questions in Forte Femme.
Mhm.
So now let's get to what people think and the myth that's out there.
Yeah. So, um, a lot of the surrogates that have come before me have been fighting an uphill battle, as far as public perception of what surrogate partner therapy is, about how to engage talk professionals like therapists, because we have to have therapists on the team. Um, a lot of people think that surrogate partner therapy is a wink, wink, nudge, nudge. This is really just sex, like just sex work. And I will say, like, I am broadly a sex worker. This is not me othering people. It's different work
Mhm. It is a
than
it is a broad umbrella, y'all. For those of you who are watching
yeah,
and listening,
yeah. And
uh,
I'm not going to wade into the hierarchy at all here, but it's a thing.
mhm,
Um, but this is therapeutic relational work with erotic potential. And that's different from, hey, Brian, um, come to touch my body in a sexy way and then magically make me healed. That's not that's not how this works at all. I don't think that's how people work at all. Um, as much as I think sex is healing, as much as I think physical intimacy is healing, like uh, the type of work that I do as a surrogate partner is very much body, brain, heart, how all those things work in concert.
mhm.
And it's very, very slow, very measured. Like I said, sometimes as long as a year, 2 years. So it's not like, hey, come see me for 2 hours and we'll just get this done. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, I mean, I think a lot of people, therapists, and I'll say civilians broadly, um, think this work is very much a checking off the boxes to get to the sex part, right? Because
Mhm.
that's what the work is about.
Even
No,
that is like mainstream heteronormative idea of what sex is. Like
yes,
it's
yes.
like when the moment that the train goes into the tunnel in the movie.
Yeah, yeah. And my question for clients, my question for therapists when I'm educating them, my question for people when they're listening to things like this is like, what is sex? Right?
Love that
I can
question.
I can be having a lovely dinner with a partner and stroking their finger and we can be having sex there out in public, right?
Oh, hell yeah.
Um, there's so many different shapes that it can take. It doesn't have to do that. So a lot of the work is also unpacking that heteronormative script of what sex is. A lot of it is like what we talk about queering sex,
Hmm.
where we get to have it. We get to have it. We get to paint whatever picture we want as long as we're doing it together. So there is no wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I know what you're getting at when you talk about this, right? It's like, no, it's like it's the opposite of that. It is, let's deconstruct what you think it is, often what clients think it is, it being sex, and then really be present with each other in the room. What do we want to do here? Why do we want to do it? Right? What are the things that we're worried about? What are the things that excite us? Let's see if we can just throw a bunch of stuff into a pot together and make something delicious.
So it sounds like the 2 points of the triangle, right? The therapist and you are
Hmm.
having to do a lot of helping with the untangling and unburdening.
Yes. Yes.
Can you tell me
Yeah.
about,
And
oh, go on.
no, no, you go ahead.
Okay. So moving on, can you tell me about, just broadly speaking, right? Obviously not specific cases, what particular kinds of challenges, like broad categories of challenges that you support?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so me personally, I work primarily with cis women, although I work with trans folks, I work with non-binary folks that are AFAB, assigned female at birth.
Mhm,
Um, I don't work with cis men.
mhm,
The reason why I don't work with cis men is because I want to be able to authentically come into work and um, allow a client to witness what it feels like for me to have authentic pleasure, authentic erotic potential, right? I'm
no.
not phoning anything in, I'm not acting.
Mhm,
Um, whether it's with, a gender that I am just organically related to or not, or organically attracted to or not, um, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna bullshit, I'm not gonna be like, well, this is for the work,
mhm,
um, because that short circuits the whole system that we've built of I am taking care of myself and you can trust me, getting back to the consent part,
mhm,
and we are all making decisions based on what we are feeling authentically in our body. As far as the kind of challenges that people come to the work,
mhm,
can be super broad. It could be anything that like folks typically think of as dysfunction. Hate the word, but
mhm,
like basic sexual functioning. It could be erectile orgasmic difficulties. It could be genital pain. Um, Clients can often have physical disability
mhm,
that
mhm,
may have a physical component to the functioning of like physical intimacy of like, if my body has limitations, how am I going to do this? But also there's a social aspect to it because let me tell you, our society is not great for folks with disability and giving them permission or encouraging them to explore sexuality or intimacy, right?
mhm,
It's just like, ooh, we're going to kind of push you over here and not think about that. And that leaves its own mark. Um, Often work with folks that have some degree of trauma.
mhm.
right? Especially because I work mostly with AFAB folks. And we can
Mhm.
talk about capital T trauma of things happening. But we can also talk about systemic trauma, just like what is it like to grow up as a female bodied human in this world that is not great, right?
Yeah.
So we talk about all of the insidious, subtle messaging that we get around our bodies, our agency, from a very early age, even if there hasn't been a specific incidence of trauma. Um, I work a lot with folks around orientation and gender identity,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? Um, like, what is it like to be a queer person and um, really own your queerness as opposed to going down that heteronormative scripted path?
Mhm.
What is it like to be in transition where you have a new body and you're being seen and perceived in a different way?
Mhm.
Or maybe physically you've had top or bottom surgery and you're like, I don't know how to use these parts. I don't know how to communicate to a partner how I want my body to be touched. Right. Um, so yeah, there's a very broad range of issues that clients come to us from, but basically the big overarching umbrella that catches it all is they feel like they feel broken. They feel very, very frustrated with their inability to feel like they can connect intimately with other people.
Mhm.
Most of the folks that come to the work, almost all the folks that come to the work, are just like by definition unpartnered. They have not been able to sustain healthy relationships. They might have been in relationships before, but they probably have not been healthy. Or they can't even conceive of even going out on a first date.
So your clients, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have a couple of questions coming up here. First question, the therapists that you work with, okay? And
Mm-hmm.
my understanding is that there's not a lot of surrogate partner therapists out there, not a lot of your peers.
Um, yeah, let's language for just a second. I tend to not say surrogate partner therapists because we're not
Oh,
therapists,
right,
right?
right.
We're not
Okay.
licensed, we're not trained as therapists. We're our own separate profession.
Surrogate partner therapy
Is
is
done by
the,
surrogate
the,
partners.
the what you do.
Yeah, yeah,
And the who is a surrogate partner.
yes,
Okay, got
yes,
it. Okay.
yeah. No, there may be maybe 100 of us in the United States.
What?
Yeah, it's so it's challenging because it has been stigmatized,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because it's really fucking demanding work to be emotionally present, to be physically present, to have the language of the body, but also the clinical mindset. There are
Mm-hmm.
not a lot of people who can do it. And because it has been stigmatized, there's not a whole lot of work. There's a disconnect between the need, and I think a lot of people need the work, and therapists that are willing to or able to help be in that therapeutic triad with us.
Mm. And how do the therapists find you? First, they have to know you exist.
Mm-hmm. I mean, one of the things I've been doing for my entire career as a surrogate partner is outreach and advocacy. Because back in my microbiology days, because back in my jewelry days, I love teaching. I learned how to teach. I decided when I started doing this, we need to educate the therapists, right?
Mm-hmm.
We need to teach them how to work with surrogate partners. We need to teach them that they can work with surrogate partners, um, and how to introduce the work to potential clients. Because, like I said, a lot of people need this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Even the people that are currently in relationships need the kind of work that we do because our society is deeply fucked around relationships, communication, how
And
we,
you were using the term of people who feel broken. So if you
yeah,
have two people who feel broken or three people who feel broken in a relationship together,
yeah. And I think many people feel that functionally, if I just pair with someone else, that means I'm not broken. And as long as I can sustain this relationship, I'll be fine.
Question about
Yeah.
your professional partner, the therapist, and the surrogate partner. What is the realm of the things that the surrogate partner's realm of responsibility and not realm of responsibility, and
Yeah,
what is
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
therapist's realm of responsibility and the scope of
Mhm.
what's not theirs or what they can't do?
Those are great questions. So first off, we're not all working together in the same room,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm not doing exercises with client where I'm like, okay, now let's take off our clothes and look at ourselves naked and give a monologue about our bodies while a therapist is in the corner. That's not how that works. Um, but we do, as a surrogate partner and client, we do the embodiment work. We do what is going on in our bodies now. We talk about how that informs our relationship in the room, right? What do we do? How do we do it? What is the trajectory of the work? Um, and how does it relate to our relationship,
Mm-hmm.
right? When I start work with clients, like my no is on the table. I'm not just there to facilitate their experience. Um, so we go through that kind of give and take, push pull of what is it like for us to kind of stumble through the work together. That's very different than what client does with therapist. Client with therapist, often they have conversations of like, okay, so how did the session go? What were the challenging things? What were the things that were surprisingly easy or pleasant? How is that different from what's happened in the past?
Mm-hmm.
And what does it mean as far as your relationship, right? Do you feel close? Do you feel safe? Um, what are things that you feel like are not uh, not a connection point between you and your surrogate? Because we're here for professional reasons. Not everything has to align. I mean, honestly, even in the best of relationships, not everything aligns all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So having the therapist ask those questions, having the client process them when surrogate is not there, because the presence of the surrogate may influence how
Mm-hmm.
the client talks about that. And helping the client realize these things, develop the language and the vocabulary and the security with processing that so they can then take that back to us. Sometimes what that looks like is, hey, like I've been processing with my therapist about what we did in our last session, and there was something that just didn't really feel good. And I was really nervous about telling you in the moment. Can we go back to that and talk about it a little bit? And I'm like, yeah, let's do that.
That is big. I mean, how many of us haven't had an experience like that? Especially
Yeah.
through, whether we have figured out who we are or not. I want to,
Or conversely, I want to jump in because
yeah.
how many people avoid doing that in their relationships for the sake of the relationship? They're like, I'll just tolerate whatever happened
Hmm.
and move on because I don't want to jeopardize the relationship.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
not great.
Now, as this is Consent Dojo, I'm going to pull us in because this is so fascinating
Yeah,
professionally.
yeah, 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 yeah.
I'm going to pull us back to uh, issues of consent. And for those of you who are asking questions, understand that as it is Consent Dojo, I'm going to be focusing and prioritizing questions around consent. I may also massage, creepy hands, massage your questions into consent stuff, right? So I'm assuming that, well, most of us suck at consent, which is why I'm doing this whole program and figuring out myself. I'm assuming that many of your clients also have not had good tools around consent.
Yeah.
And in your work, how do you help clients develop skills around negotiation, consent, boundaries setting,
Yeah,
all
yeah.
communication stuff?
So I think a lot of the work we do in the very beginning is this foundational, like we need to get some of these basic tools in our toolkit before we can do anything else. We talked a little bit earlier about embodiment.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there are two exercises that I do about embodiment that I really like to do in the very beginning. One is I call it a body scan. On the outside, it looks kind of like a meditation, right? But it's not, the purpose is not relaxation. The purpose is um, me guiding clients through kind of a prompted awareness of all the different sensations that are happening in their body. We have a lot of different things going on all at once. Our brains have to shut out the vast majority of that information. But what if we turn on the spigot just a little bit so we let some of that information back in? So, what does it feel like for you to feel your body supported in the chair that you're in right now? Um, what do your clothes feel like on your body? Do you feel seams? Do you feel gaps? Are there parts that chafe or pinch? Um, just starting that language completely removed from the context of sexuality. Right? So we can start to talk about my body is feeling like this on the sensory level, but also my body is feeling like this on the emotional level. I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling tired. Right? Um, I I have a jumble of feelings and I don't know how to tease them apart. Great. Welcome to being human. Right? We'll learn how to pull them apart together. But I am never going to know how you're feeling unless you tell me what's going on. And you're never going to know how I'm feeling unless I tell you what's going on. So one of the kind of rules in the room is like we are proactively vulnerable and very authentic about what our experiences are. Another exercise that I love, love, love to do, I call satellite. And different people do this in lots of different ways. I'm sure you've done some form of this, Midori. Um, but either client or myself stands in the middle of the room, and whoever's standing in the middle of the room gets to boss the other person around. Come here, go away, move to the left, move to the right, stand up, sit down. When we're doing that, we share what does it feel as far as our comfort, right? Comfort maybe is another word for safety.
Mm-hmm.
And what does it feel as far as our connection? So if you're moving really, really far away, oh, I feel like you're too far away. I feel disconnected.
Mm.
And how does that bounce off of all the other feelings that we're experiencing? I've worked with clients that put me all the way in the corner of the room. And they're like, I don't feel connected to you, but I feel safe because I know that like if you were to come at me, I could run away. And what is it like to feel that clash of feelings?
Mm-hmm.
So we start to talk about power dynamics. We start to talk about past history. We start to talk about gender dynamics. We start to talk about social shoulds, right? I often prompt clients to say, okay, tell me to come closer until we're at a socially comfortable talking distance. And they put me, I don't know, 3 feet away from them. And I say, how comfortable are you with this? And they're like, it's fine. I was like, no, how do you
Right.
feel about this? And before you say anything else, ask me to come closer. And they're like, ooh, that's worse. And I'm like, okay, now push me away until that worse goes away. And sometimes I'm 5 feet away, 6 feet away, across the room. And they're like, okay. So when we're doing this exercise, what we realize is often we're put in situations where we're violating our own consent all the
Mm.
time,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
In service of whatever social norms are.
Mm-hmm.
Conversations are lasting longer than we want. We're interacting with people when we're tired or grumpy. We're interacting in physical proximity or we're tolerating touch that we don't necessarily want
Mm-hmm.
all the time. So what we do in the beginning of the work is really draw attention to that and say we're not gonna do that same bullshit, right? that's outside of this room. We are going to be focused on when we're doing things that actually make us feel comfortable, uncomfortable, and not tolerate it. I want to teach our nervous systems not to tolerate the things that don't feel good.
Okay. So on this, um, since a lot of us, I'm civilian in this, professionally I'm adjacent to you, but I'm a
Mm-hmm.
civilian to your industry, right? And it's easy for us to jump to the idea that immediately what you do is, and your practice is around direct classic definition of sex,
Right?
whereas the satellite exercise, have with clients that you've had, some of the clients, uh, how long has that level of, for example, the satellite or exercise, or that which would people would take for granted in public,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
How long have you worked with some people around that?
There have been clients that I've worked with where it takes us 6 months to get to the point where we can sit side by side on a sofa.
Wait, how long?
6 months.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's because we're being really mindful of what do you want to do
Instead of tolerating it.
instead of tolerating it. And there are often layers to it and realization of, oh, I have been tolerating so much in my life.
A lot
There's
of us.
all there's all yeah,
Mm-hmm.
there's often a really heavy grief process that goes along with that.
Mm-hmm. Whoa. Okay. So this really goes against the stereotype, doesn't it? And the
Yeah.
myth.
Yeah.
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 6 months to couch, sit next to
Hmm.
each other.
And
What? Yeah.
and everybody's different, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It might be day one or day two. People are comfortable sitting on the couch with me,
Mm-hmm.
but they're coming from a different place. Um, and what is interesting for me in the work is like I want to I want to trust and have folks feel like they have agency to guide their own process, even while most of us don't know what tolerating feels like when they start the work,
Well, as a friend of mine would say, fish doesn't know what water is because,
right?
yeah,
Right. Um,
if we live in a state of
so
constant tolerating.
yeah.
Mhm.
So there might be times where we get to a certain state in the work and we look back on it and the client says, I think we like touched hands too early. Right. I think I was doing that because I was so eager to like get through the process and feel better and have this part of my life done with.
Mhm.
Um, that I wasn't really doing it because I wanted to do it. I was doing it because um, I just didn't want to feel bad anymore.
Back to the consent tools and skills,
Hmm.
negotiation, boundary setting. So what
Yeah.
we're talking about a lot is like the what I have been calling self-consent. It's actually before even self-consent. Uh,
Hmm.
seeing that boundary, you get to have boundaries, right? And that
Yeah.
you get to speak about that. Um, Tell me a little more about practical skills around, and to folks
Yeah.
out there,
Yeah.
I often talk about consent as agreement making.
So these are my nerdy fingers, right? Like this. I'm going to talk about the like if I were to do for the rest of my life any one exercise from the toolkit that we have in surrogate partner therapy, it is gonna be this. I get super excited about this. I'm sure you've done different forms of this, but we call it may I will you, right? And we ask each other may I or will you questions,
Mhm.
but the exercise happens. I do it in 5 phases. In the first phase, we ask each other, may I or will you questions. The answer is always going to be no,
Okay.
right? Because if I can't trust that you can say no to me, I'm not going to be able to trust your yes.
Hmm. So that's first.
That's first. And not only do we just automatically go through and do it, but we sit back with each other and we talk about how did it feel to say no? How did
Hmm.
it feel to receive the no? Right? And sometimes it's like, I wasn't really invested in that question. This is just a silly exercise. Hearing no is not a big thing. Sometimes it's like, actually, I was kind of curious. Like when I asked, will you give me a hug? There's a part of me that really wants a hug, and a part of me that got really hurt to hear the no, even though I knew I was going to hear no. I've worked with a client before who we did, this was maybe day one that we were doing this exercise, and they burst into tears when they were saying no to me. And they said, I have never felt comfortable saying no to a man before in my entire life. I've never felt that no welcome. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So for the folks that think this is like all about sex, I'm like, come on, y'all. Really?
Can we model that exercise? And is this something that
Yeah,
can
yeah, yeah, yeah,
virtually when in an environment where we can't touch? We're not in
yeah.
virtual. You're in Virginia, I'm in California.
And it's gonna feel different because we're not in the same room. So we don't have all the same information.
Right.
We can pretend. We can
Okay.
pretend.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so Midori, when we're doing this exercise, we're gonna ask each other, may I or will you questions. Maybe let's do 3 questions each.
Okay.
Um, and the questions can be anything. They could be ridiculous, they can be serious, they could be things that you have no intention of ever doing. They could be
Mhm.
things that you might want to do with me. Um, you'll ask your questions, I'll respond, and then after I respond with a no, I would ask you to say thank you because we always thank the no.
Mhm. Okay.
And then we will switch. I will ask questions, you will say no, um, and then I will say thank you.
Okay.
While all of this is happening, let's pay attention to how it feels to hear and say no. And then we'll
Okay.
talk about that after.
Okay. So I start with my, and it can be either, what was it? Will you?
May I or will you?
Either of those.
Yeah.
Okay.
Either
Okay.
of those. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Uh, may I lick the camera?
No.
Thank you.
I have a funny story around that, but we'll get to that later.
Okay.
Would you like to do more in a row, or do you want to ping pong it back and forth?
Let's ping pong back and forth a
Okay.
couple times to model it
Yeah.
for our
Yeah.
viewers. Okay.
Um, Midori, will you chew this piece of bubble gum that I've been chewing?
No.
Thank you.
Hmm. Okay, let's do one more round. Uh, okay, so Brian, don't look at the chat. I'm going to ask people as to what I should ask. Okay, so folks who are here, okay, put in the chat my ask. Come up with something, y'all.
Yeah. I love the mischievous Midori laugh.
Yep. Wonder if we'll get anything. If not, I'll just come up with something. Okay. All right, time's up, y'all. Okay. Uh, will you take off your glasses slowly?
No.
Thank you.
Um, Midori, next time we see each other at a conference, will you treat me to dinner?
No.
Thank you. Okay, so can we get nerdy and process this for a
Yes.
little bit?
Let's process it.
Right before we do that, I want to say like there's so many different flavors of no. There's like a no, not right now. There's a no, fuck you, no, never ever. There's a I don't understand what I would be agreeing to, so I'm gonna say no, kind of a self-protection. When we condense consent to binary yeses and nos, we miss out on so much richness. So like what we're going to do now is we're going to start to unpack some of that a little bit.
Okay. Okay.
So when you were asking questions to me, Were they authentic questions? Were they things that you really wanted to do or really wanted me to do?
See, I asked the lick, the camera, and the
Lick
glasses.
the camera.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, that's cool. So you got a feeling of what it's like to be invested in the question.
Mm-hmm.
What did it feel like for me to say no?
Um, I was actually tickled by your no to the lick the camera. Um, it actually felt kind of like kids being bratty jerk to each other in a fun
Mm-hmm.
way.
Mm-hmm.
It felt playful.
Yes. Yeah.
Hmm.
And fun fact, my first memory of you is being at a conference and a colleague was presented with an award and you licked that award. So I could absolutely visualize you licking the camera.
Oh yeah, you were there that day. That yeah.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yep.
Yeah, so that was, and then your no, um, I I felt delight in my weirdness being accepted as amusement. And if it would have been different, it was like, no.
Yeah. Yeah. What one of the threads that runs through this work that we do is what does it feel like to be held in relationship,
Mhm.
even as you were saying no, right? I
Yeah, 'cause
respect your no and I cherish my relationship with you. My no doesn't mean a no to everything.
that was a fun no. Uh, and if a no can be fun, that was a fun no. And it could be a
Yeah.
forever hell no, but it still was fun because you recognize the mischief.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Hmm.
Um, and that no for me, like the taking the glasses off slowly, or even the no to the camera. Like I love being a little gremlin, right? Like I would have loved for you to lick the camera, and I love when you have the opportunity to just be yourself like that. Like I could totally picture myself saucily taking my glasses off slowly. Um, so there's a little bit of regret in me that neither one of us had the opportunity to do that.
Hmm. In your no to the slow, because I was totally thinking like the the sexy glasses.
Hmm.
And the no, I did feel a little, I know that I know this exercise is a no, but damn, that's disappointing.
Hmm. Hmm. And that comes up with clients a lot of like, if I were to fully embody myself, I would be a yes to this, but I can't be a yes right now. Um, and we get to talk about it, right? Like that might be like you get to see Brian taking his glasses off slowly, like on the second date. I don't know, um, but not right now.
Mhm. Mhm. So that's the first exercise.
Yeah, the second exercise is, and we don't necessarily have to do this, but automatically saying yes.
Hmm.
What does it feel like to have to say yes? There's no action that happens.
Hmm.
But how is that different from how does the relationship feel different when we have permission to say no?
Hmm.
The
Mm.
third, right? And the implications of like, oh shit, I probably say yes a lot to things that I don't want,
Hmm. Yep.
right? The third part of the exercise that I really, really like is what I call weighing ambivalence. Don't answer yes or no. We're not using those words. We don't even have to say this verbally, but like let's unpack all the things that are positives, negatives, things we do want to do, things we don't want to do, ways that we want to feel, things that come up when we hear that question. And I'm just going to sit there and give you time to do that. I don't expect any action from you. I have no agenda. This is just a curiosity. And maybe
Interesting.
sometimes we will get to the point where we unpack that together.
Hmm.
But what that does is that takes the urgency out of the conversation, right? If if you are talking to someone and they say, Midori, I am such a fan. I would love for you to tie me. Will you tie me?
Hmm.
what does it feel like to say, like, give me a day or two to think on that instead of
Mhm.
having to come up with an answer right now,
Right. Hmm.
right? It makes a huge difference. We do things so quickly. We're expected to know exactly how we want to feel in the moment. That's not how we work all the time.
We take longer to figure out what we're ordering off a menu.
Seriously. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So bringing this back to like how we do consent, like if we're talking about sex, if we're talking about kink or things like that, and we're expected to know, like if people actually ask, make like direct questions in the moment, knowing how we have been socialized, knowing that most of us don't have these skills, how the hell are we supposed to answer these questions in the moment with full authenticity?
Right. And I was thinking about the restaurant situation because in a restaurant, we are, when the staff's good, we are
Mhm.
trained with the, "Oh, would you like me to come back at some time? Just give me a holler."
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Mm,
But
mm,
what if it's a really crowded restaurant
mhm.
and you see a line out the door of people waiting? Do you feel this urgency that you have to make your decision faster in service of everybody else's experience?
Right. The ambivalence and the situation of having to say yes, I actually have a real life non-sexual experience with this very recently, actually. I know you all are curious now, right? And it's completely a boring environment. But apparently I created some ripples, right? So I'm part of various arts organizations, right? And we were having a leadership meeting and bringing in new tools into running the organization, and one of which is Slack, which I've never had to deal with. And I don't like dealing with new technology. And so we're going around the decision table about, okay, we're going to be introducing this, and this app and a policy change, and we're going to be doing Slack, and okay, you all okay with this? And then you know, they had people go around and say yes, 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 and it was a Zoom meeting. It came around to me, and I was like this. I don't
Yep.
like it, and I literally said, I don't like it. I don't want to do it, but I will.
Yeah. Yeah.
And apparently that created quite the ripple. Oh yeah, what else did I say? I said, I don't like it, I don't want to do it, but I will, and I'm probably going to need help.
Mm.
Because
That's
new
not what you're
tools
supposed
freak
to
me
say,
out.
Midori. You're
I
supposed
know,
to just
right?
say yes,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And apparently that created quite the ripple. It's a good group, so they were all supporting me in it, but that's not an answer
Hmm.
I've heard before.
No, no. And I think like if we're talking about non-sexy terms, what is
Mhm.
it like to have consent in the room? An organization that is functioning well, a class that is functioning well, would pause and say, okay, let's take some time from Midori, right? What about it is giving you pause? Where's the ambivalence there,
Mhm.
right? How can we support you?
That did kind of come up in that the one
Good.
tech savvy person in the room was like, I can show you around sometime, we can set up a time."
Hmm.
So that. But yeah, I didn't give the answer that was expected.
No, no.
Yeah.
Like the answer that was expected is we're all here to do the thing. I was going through the motions asking if we want to do the thing. But like that maps onto sex, that maps onto kink, right? We're in bed, we're naked. You should just be down for whatever, right?
Right.
No, actually that's not how it works. That's not how it works.
Yeah, I'm wondering though, because, and I joke in the group, and they're really good people. I joke about how I'm the asshole of the group and I'm the agitator of the group, and and good people, so they actually apparently find, I think some people find it frustrating, but they actually honor me in it.
Yeah. I mean, hmm, I feel that same way a lot. And even as I use the words asshole. Sometimes I say I'm like, I'm going to be a dick about this. Um, what I mean when I say that is I'm going to challenge the convention
Mm-hmm.
of like this unspoken rules, and I'm going to shine the light on the unspoken rules, especially when I think it's not working in service of the group.
And in that conversation and realizing that what I had just done, and I'm wondering if my ability to say that uh, might have come from years in kink and having to evaluate what I'm available for.
Yeah,
Because my culture
yeah.
of origin, my upbringing is in Japan.
But
Yeah.
so one
Yeah.
of the therapists that has really deeply informed my work is Akila Riley Richardson, and she talks about relational privilege,
Mm-hmm.
especially in terms of systemic trauma. You came into that with a significant amount of relational privilege, maybe
Mm-hmm.
not from your upbringing, maybe not from your social conditioning and your gender, but
Mm-hmm.
certainly from your profession,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like you were invited to be a part of this group as an expert.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, that was interesting. Um,
Hmm.
I know there's still two exercises, but I want to address the Q&As in the room because
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we could talk forever. Hey, also, y'all, if for those of you who are part of my Patreon, and if you're not part of my Patreon, you should join. For those of you who are part of my Patreon, if you want, maybe I can lure him over for further conversations beyond the scope of consent. It will always
I'm
have
an enthusiastic yes to that. Yeah.
great. Let me ask some questions from the group. Okay. Uh, and this is coming from a uh, therapist. Okay. And in terms of consent, I'd like to concretely know what types of sexual acts your industry or you can engage in with clients, as well as how you negotiate consent around STIs. Do surrogate partners engage in acts such as oral sex, genital penetrative sex, anal sex, etc.? And if so, how do you negotiate around protective barriers used, gloves, dams, condoms, etc., and any possible STIs that might happen? I have clients who would want to know this before talking to any
Yeah.
surrogate.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, love that question. Um, a lot of clients, a lot of therapists like to come in and um, because this is unfamiliar terrain, there's a lot of uncertainty about what the risk is, right? Whether it's physical risk as far as STI, whether it's legality risk, whether it's professional ethics risks, and they want to know with certainty, this is what's going to happen and this is how it's going to happen. Which is where it gets the answer to that question gets a little bit maybe fuzzy and frustrating, right? Do I know that when I'm working with a client, we're absolutely going to get to erotic touch? I don't. I've worked with clients that I thought, oh, this is probably going to be a really big part of their work. We're going to need to do the work in that context. Never happens, right? Um, all of those conversations happen in time and on two different levels, well, multiple different levels, if I'm being realistic. One is it relevant to the work,
Hmm.
right? Broadly.
Hmm.
Two is, do both parties actually want to do it, right? Um, and the third part of it is like, how does that fit into our individual risk factors?
Hmm.
Because that's different from wanting to do it, right? The wanting to do it is these are the yes parts of the equation. There's also always going to be some no part of the equation.
Hmm.
Um, so do we want to do oral? Do we want to do anal? Do we want to explore kink? Is this relevant to the work? How do I feel about my relationship with you? Is this something that I want to do with you? How does what we are doing right now extend into or outside of the container that we're in, right? As far as STIs, as far as relationships. So we get to use this as a great opportunity to really model conversations that might happen in the wild with an organic partner. I feel like we're there in our relationship. I really trust you. Feel comfortable around you. When our bodies touch, I start to feel aroused, and that feels good to me, right?
Mhm.
And I'm a yes to doing this, this, and this. In my professional life, like I always use barriers. In my personal life, I don't always use barriers. And these are the circumstances under which I don't do that.
Mhm.
But like I'm always going to use barriers, or I'm going to use barriers for this and not this. How does that change our feelings about the act? How does that change our feelings about the risk profile? So it's actually a pretty protracted conversation that we have with clients, that where in the beginning they thought it was a either yes, no, I'm going to have sex, I'm not going to have sex, into like this very rich tapestry of conversation that is dynamic just between us and clients, but also clients and therapists. We're like, clients are like, I didn't know you could have this conversation. I don't know how you feel about this, right? I
Which
don't
also
know if I
means
want to give.
they're
Go
not
ahead.
having a conversation in their private lives.
Exactly. Exactly. So yeah, it's not a cop out to say like I don't know how those conversations go, because there's such a wide range of possibilities.
Mhm.
But all of it is going to be in service of conversations, hopefully, that they'll have with future partners.
To the person who asked this question, and hopefully you're still in the room, uh, did that approach your question? And you're welcome to write that in.
Mm.
It sounds like a very great.
I also want to add something else, Midori, that I think I
Yeah.
didn't add in the beginning. I use a conversation that Evelyn Dacker teaches, the STAR conversation. It's a really good shorthand for talking about STI status, um, turn-ons, avoids. Um, oh my God, I'm blanking on what the R is right now. But it's shorthand for how do we have conversations around sexual acts, um, and what do we do, when do we do them, how do we engage with them. Um, so I think it's something that I want to integrate into the work and like give clients as tools moving forward.
Can you mention the name again?
Evelyn Dacker,
Okay.
and it's STAR conversation.
Okay. Great. And I will uh, find that, have that link found and share that.
Hmm.
Um, okay. You probably saw when my gears were turning.
Hmm.
I've been having quite a few conversations with mental health professionals around the impact of AI on intimacy. Right. Because it is something that the therapists need to address because it is being used. And what's missing because of, it's a pattern recognizing algorithm that essentially
Hmm.
will be sycophantic all the way through and and support and echo back, right? So it's kind of like Narcissus
Hmm.
and the lake. Uh, it is actually just like Narcissus and the lake. Um, and poor Echo off the side. I'm making reference, y'all, to Greek mythology, but in those, and for those of you who are interested, check out previous episodes by that I did with Dr. Marky Twist on what's called digisexuality. Okay, conversations around that, and the expose that Sunny Megatron's doing. So, what's missing in AI companions is this exercise 1 and 2 and 3 that we've done so far. How am I feeling about this?
Yeah.
And I've got a partner who's always going to say yes,
Hmm.
but also pulling out from my own repertoires and words, right? So this ability to self-assess, the ability to navigate conversations like, what does sex mean to you? What does touch mean to you?
Right.
And how did I feel when I said no? Or how did I feel when I could only say yes? So that aspect is missing. And this rushed to say, well, we can find intimacy in technology.
Yeah. Yeah. And what what is what is challenging in this conversation is that AI gives us what we are used to in society,
Mhm.
right? This kind of call and response idea of consent, where there's not really a lot of diverting from the path of what is expected. Um, what we do as humans when we are coming from an embodied place, when we are being vulnerable, when we feel like we have space in the relationship to really be ourselves, is we're figuring out what we want in the moment with the person, right? And we're using this kind of like beautiful constellation of feelings to orient ourselves to each other. AI can't do that. It can churn out information. It could be predictive modeling, but because it lacks that embodiment component, it doesn't really allow us. It is unable, as far as I know, right now, to feel in the way that we feel. Um, it's not programmed to challenge us in a way that is inquisitive and seeking deeper understanding. And that doesn't allow us to orient ourselves in relationship. Right? There are plenty of clients that I've worked with that we get to a part in the work 8 months, a year down the line where do we want to start thinking about erotic contact? And the conversations we have are often something like, Brian, I love you. I trust you. I feel comfortable around you in a way that like I've never felt comfortable around anybody else. My body is turned on around you, but I don't want to have sex with you because sex means something to me. It means something relationally to me. And I like now that I have the ability to say, no, I don't want that because of all those reasons. Like in spite of and in honoring the fact that I feel close to you, right? Let's hold all of those messy parts together.
Okay. That actually connects to a follow-up question to the therapist. So I'm going to shift over to the Q&A here. And uh, I think, let's see, it mostly did, this is speaking as the person, the therapist asking, you mostly did answer my question mark, dot, dot, dot. I see the eyebrow rising,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
metaphorically. I appreciate the focus on conversation, but I'd wanted more clear and concrete answers to whether the surrogates actually do engage in the full range of sex acts if it is in service to the goal and healing of
Right,
client.
right.
Uh, many,
So can I
uh-huh.
dive into that?
Yeah, yeah. There was a
Yeah,
bit of the risk that I wanted to read in the question.
sure.
Let
Go
me just
for it.
finish the paragraph. Many surrogates and let's see, and even your site pretty fuzzy about this. I can understand because of the gray area of legality, but it can be frustrating not having a concrete yes, this is available, not that it has to be a yes, this will be done. I just wanted to know what kind of acts might be available to clients if appropriate. He answered vaguely, but seems like most things acts might be available, question mark.
Yeah. So we can delve into the gray area of legality if we want to. That could be another conversation that we can have on the side too. Um,
I am
but
cognizant that we are looking at a time limit here.
right. But this is something that Midori and I have talked about is like when we are asking about what is on the table, it's not it's not as much about the act as how do we want to feel,
Mhm.
right? So when someone says, okay, is oral sex going to be on the table? Is PIV intercourse going to be on the table? Well, is our relationship in that place? Do we want to do that? Um, for me, um, I come into the work with um, a broad erotic potential where I say it could be. I don't know.
Okay.
Right? We'll see when we get there. There are plenty of surrogates that do work completely asexually. Like they draw the line at erotic contact. They say, this is what I do because this is who I am as a person. This is how I orient myself to the work. If you want to work with me, just know there's not going to be erotic contact.
So I would, uh, I am wondering if, for therapists who are curious, if they should just reach out to the surrogate
Yeah. Talk
because
to
it's
us
really
like
case
people.
by case, right?
Yeah, it's case by case. And we're not a vending machine, right? You don't get to put a coin in the slot and say, oh, this is what I expect to get out.
Mhm.
Um, there are a lot of different factors, and we don't know those factors until we get there.
So a
So
direct
when you're
consult.
talking
A direct,
direct consult, and part of preparation for a client in this work is we don't know how we're going to feel six
Mhm.
months, 8 months, a year from now. There is a faith in the process that has to happen, that whatever comes, whether it's yes, we're going to do this and we're all on board and we're all enthusiastic, or um, one party says, no, I don't want to do this, that's part of the work too.
I'm going to move on to another question. So to the
Yeah,
therapist who asked that, I'm going to encourage contact different ones, and I'm assuming
please, please, please.
that if one, so for example, the asexual, non-sexual surrogate might refer to somebody else.
Yeah, yeah. If they say, hey, it's really important for you to have some really concrete hands-on stuff around erotic contact, I might not be the best surrogate for you.
There's a question here that to the person asking the question, I'm gonna need a little more context, but I'm gonna read this. I may be joining an ethics committee in the community. What are some specific areas of consent, ethics, or process and procedure that you would recommend I research or read up on? Which community? Which ethics? I need context on this because it
Yeah,
would be very different for ethics committee for a research project with a psychological research, or it would be different if it's like the local ethics committee for the local non-monogamy. Okay, so somebody and the person wrote kink community. Now I'm going to jump in on this one. There is no the kink community. There is no singular kink community. And that's part of the issue is to portray kink subcultures as somehow a unified monolith. So if defining, if putting together an ethics committee, what is the scope of the population and the problem that this committee is addressing, and what's your business and what's not your business, essentially. And Brian, coming from a science background, you've dealt with ethics committees.
sure. And therapy, the therapy
Mhm.
community too. Yeah,
And so I would, if I were in your shoes, it's all up to you, person asking the question. If I were in your shoes, I'm going to wonder about and want clear answers on who is this ethics community serving? And when hard questions come up, how do you address that and what's the outcome? Because I am also on the coaching side dealing with several clients who want to do restorative justice and amends, but have no process and procedures that's available to those who have had consent incidences. So I'd look carefully as to what is the mission of this ethics community? Who is it serving? What policy, and are there experts on that? Because I would not want to be on a group of well-meaning, but tending towards the knight to the rescue syndrome group. So that's my thought, Brian.
Yeah, I'll just echo that, right? Like if, especially kink is not monolithic. Nothing's monolithic, right? Non-monogamy groups, surrogate partners, therapists, um, and ethics is such a fucking broad topic, right? Um, so my question would be like, what are your expectations of me? How do you want me to fulfill the role? What do you want me to do? Um, who am I going to be working with? Um, what are your expected duties? Because ethics, like consent, is a conversation. It's dynamic, it's slippery. Um, and without knowing what the expectations are, I would not be able to consent to what, like, even if I wanted to be a part of that group, if I didn't know what I was expected to do. And I think, I don't know if there is a course that you can take that will prepare you for all the things that are going to happen there.
Mhm.
Like, Midori, how long have you been doing this? Like, it's,
Personally kinky stuff since early 90s.
yeah, and
This
talking
this is
about
why I don't
ethics
join
and
committees.
right, right. And my process in surrogate partner therapy and non-monogamy that I have in my personal life is slow and muddy and laborious and very community oriented, right? We are constant, like ethics is a live conversation that happens. Um, and we can get better informed about the processes. We can get better informed about the feelings that we have as we're talking about things. But definitive answers are sometimes really hard to come by.
Hmm. And if speaking merely for myself, if I were asked this question of, hey, will you join this committee and for the King community? And I see the scope is leadership, staff attendee of a conference, how to triage help and help people resolve those incidences. And the person has asked these questions. If I were asked this and in this situation, this is well above my skill level. And then there's who am I to judge? I do not have the skills. And then what, and if the group is not clear, but merely well meaning, I would say enthusiastically no. And to the consent exercise, um, I have been in the kink subcultures and sex positive subcultures. I've been asked a lot of things. And I don't mean sex acts. I mean like join a committee, run for a title. And I have said no a lot because if I
Mhm.
cannot speak for myself, yeah, so this may not be the satisfactory answer to the person who asked, but also speaking of boundaries, uh, time boundary. And we've just
Mhm.
gone past 90 minutes because you are so interesting to talk to, damn it. Um, there is much to talk about, and I'm really appreciating all the people who are here live. And I want to have you back over in my Patreon, and then we can like really talk about things and go down fantastic rabbit holes.
Mhm.
I'm really holding my tongue on the various rabbit holes I want to go to, and like stick it with consent, stick it with consent. Uh, so I like to end all of my Consent Dojo with an exercise from our esteemed guests. Now, do you have an exercise for us?
Yes. We were talking about homework from the very beginning. Um, right. And I talked about this exercise um, when I was describing some of the foundational things that we do in surrogate partner therapy of the satellite exercise of, you know, telling someone to move away, telling someone to move closer. Um, maybe if you have a partner available, you can boss them around a little bit. They can boss you around a little bit. You can see how it feels when they move closer, when they move further away. when they're behind you, when they're not looking at you, when they're turning away, when they're sitting down or standing up, right? Um, you get to talk about all sorts of feelings that you have that may not come out in comfortable conversation. If you have a partner available, you can do that. You can do the satellite with them. Yes, Midori. I think you're muted, maybe?
I am. Um, so this doesn't have to be one's erotic partner. Like maybe I'm a person that has uncomfortable, unresolved issues with partner. Maybe I could
Mhm.
ask my bestie.
It could be a bestie, it could be a sibling, right? It could be a parent, it could be anybody who's down, right?
Mhm.
Um, someone that you know from your contact improv class. I don't know. Um, but you can have these conversations in a very structured, intentional way. Or if you don't have a bestie contact improv buddy to do this with, um, just notice this in yourself when you're walking around, right? Notice all the social scripts and the expectations of proximity, how people use proximity and positioning for dominance, how you may be tolerating your way through a conversation. You may be tolerating your way through proximity, or when you're holding back from moving closer because it might not be appropriate.
Mhm.
When you feel like you're fending off someone from moving closer because you feel like it's not appropriate. Doesn't have to necessarily be a two-way exercise. It can just be you noticing your own experience as you walk through the really muddy world that we have.
Boy, sure muddy. And to all who are here live and who are watching the video, this is one of the reasons that I keep doing Consent Dojo because we live in a muddy, glorious, complicated, infuriating world. And I would like to, for each of us to be able to function better in this. And yeah, function better, function in a place of more joy and clarity. And so, because of that, we have to keep exercising our consent muscles. I like the exercises you gave, and thank you so much. And for those of you who are here live, if you'd like to share your comments of appreciation or, well, can't do the questions because we're closing this up. Uh, but please do put in your comments, feedbacks, etc. in the chat. This has been really enlightening. And
Thank you, Midori. I love this conversation.
this has been really fascinating. I am going to close the recording in a moment. For those of you who are here live, please stick around. To those of you who are viewing later, thank you so much for continuing to work on your consent muscles. And I hope to see you in my Patreon. And oh, next month, I have a guest. We're going to be talking about consent in writing erotic fiction. Yes. So I have an amazing kink and erotic fiction writer that's going to be talking about the change in the writing world around consent and responsibly doing that. And I don't know what else she's going to discuss because she's really good. So see you all next time.